This winning side, the Cameroonian Indomitable Lions, and the Super Falcons of Nigeria, having to go through to the third round of the competition. To join us in this conversation, an interesting one here, will be, of course, Pan-African football commentator, both male and female, Clive Kyazze from Kampala, Uganda. Thank you so much, Clive, for joining us on the show.
Yes, good afternoon, and thanks for having me too.
It's great to have you. Always great to have you on the show. So I've seen the game at this time, a last-minute winning goal there. 3-0 it ends there. I was waiting when the Indomitable Lions were up 2-0. I was saying this may run into penalty shootout, but at the end of the day, that last-minute goal gave the Cameroonians a bye into the next round of this competition. Let's see how you evaluated that game between the Cameroonian Indomitable Lionesses and the Crested Cranes of Uganda.
Well, it was always obvious that the Cameroonians were going to come out strong in the return leg that they were going to be hosting in Douala. Because you could also see in the first leg in Njeru, when they were 2-0 down, they badly looked for that precious away goal, but it never came. They even got an opportunity from 12 yards, a penalty that goalkeeper Vanessa Karunji was able to go out there and save. And of course, there was a little time to probably rectify their mistakes. Uganda arrived early because they badly wanted the result to see themselves into the next round. And you could tell even from the interviews from the coach who is there on interim, Charles Ayeko Mbuzi, that they were going out there and not to sit back, give Cameroon respect, but try their level best and take the game to Cameroon and probably see themselves through the 90 minutes as they get to the next stage. And that is what exactly they did. Unfortunately, it didn't work in their favor. Cameroon playing at home, probably better conditions and natural grass and all that. They just got their moments and utilized their moments. And that's when the game went into extra time, though it's something that probably I thought shouldn't have happened because it even happened in the tie that Uganda played against Rwanda when the game was tied 3-3 on aggregate. It went into extra time. You thought that probably at a stage like these qualifiers that are not actual tournaments, teams that should go straight into spot kicks. Though I wouldn't want to blame that to be the reason that Cameroon were able to go out with the result that they needed. But for me, I thought the third goal that Cameroon scored shouldn't have stood. Yes, there's no VAR in these competitions. The referee had already counted the goal, but after looking at the damage that was caused on the goalkeeper, I thought it wasn't too late for the match officials to probably reverse the decision. Unfortunately, the decision stood even when the goalkeeper had to leave the pitch with a bandaged head, with blood clots and stuff like that. You thought that Cameroon gave a good account of themselves. The Crested Cranes gave a good account of themselves. I can tell you, not so many people thought that the Crested Cranes stood a chance against Cameroon. But for them to go out there and put up the show they did put up in both legs, the first leg and the return leg, I thought that they should be proud of themselves for that performance, and maybe consistency will eventually see them rubbing shoulders with the big girls of African football.
Okay. You did talk about that late minute goal, 115th minute. We saw Vanessa Karungi being fouled there, but that goal did stand from the referee's conclusion. Looking at the fact that we could not even use the VAR to evaluate that goal, does this really show the status of African football in entirety? Maybe it was played on the African scene, and that's why we could not contend the goal.
Well, I wouldn't really put it down to the mentality of Africa. I mean, these are Olympic qualifiers. We should know that video assistant referee is used in different competitions, depending on the organizers of the competitions. Yes, these might be African Games organized by CAF, but they are being organized on behalf of the International Olympic Committee because these are Olympic qualifiers. You thought that probably if the IOC demanded that we should be having video assistant referee, maybe it should be used. But also we should remember that it is not something that you can use across the continent. Yes, maybe Cameroon might have the facilities, but how about the first leg in Kampala? But Uganda doesn't have the facilities. Uganda first played Rwanda before they got here. Both countries probably don't have the facilities to facilitate that. So you cannot entirely blame it on the organizers, but it is probably something that has not been embraced globally because of the lack of facilities to make sure that you ensure. Because if you're to have video assistant referee, then that means that everywhere these Olympic qualifiers are happening on the continent, we should be having video assistant referees. And it is not an issue of a CAF alone. It is probably an issue of all member associations. Some can afford it, some can't afford it because of the investment that comes with it.
Okay, let's talk about women's football. We've seen Morocco. Morocco did go back 3 years, work on everything they needed to work on, and come up with gold. We'll see the Atlas Lionesses, the way they play right now. And that's what gave them a chance to the FIFA Women's World Cup. Moving to Nigeria, Nigeria are the most successful women's national team on the African scene. We've seen what South Africa have been able to do with Desiree Elise, keeping Desiree Elise all the way from 2018 down to 2023. And we can see the dividend in the Banyana. Now, Ghana are on a mission. They call that Mission Volta. And that's why they had to take out the national team coach, who is a domestic coach, Mesitego Kwako, and bring in Nora Hoptel. And we've been seeing goals pouring in. They are banging goals as we speak right now, the Ghana Black Queens. I beg to ask, Clive, when will Uganda take women football seriously so their national teams can go toe-to-toe with African powerhouses, especially on the African scene?
Well, I think they are taking it seriously, just like
How
all
serious?
the other African countries. I mean, serious to the extent that we've had a league since 2015. As we speak today, we have two divisions of women's football. We have the first division, we have the second division. We also have a cup competition. So those are two competitions. You have the league. Then you also have the FA Cup. Girls football is played all the way from primary school level to secondary school level up to the tertiary institutions. 5 out of the teams that play in the National League are institutions. You're talking about schools, you're talking about universities. And I think we are taking it as serious as a country, but I also want to believe that probably the challenges that women's football is facing in Uganda are the same challenges men's football is facing. The only difference is that probably there is a lot of attention that is being paid to men's football compared to women's football. But at the end of the day, the challenges are the same. That probably that's the reason why we are not at the level that everyone thinks that we should be. But it is the same case with men's football. We are not at the level where everyone thinks that we should be. So it is something that we are facing as a nation. But at least the structures have been put in place. The opportunities have been laid there for people who want to be a part of this project to go out there and be part of this project. I mean, you're talking about Nigeria being the most successful team on the African continent. But also when you look at their men's team, it is a superpower on the African continent. So that shows you the difference in gulf between Nigeria and Uganda. You're talking about Morocco. I mean, their men's team currently is the best team on the African continent. Might not be having the Africa Cup of Nations, but they are the best teams. And what they are putting in place to improve men's football is the same thing that they are putting in place to improve women's football in that department. You can say the same thing about Tunisia, the same thing about South Africa, that they have the facilities, they have the personnel, they have the equipment, and they just probably need to take the same direction they are taking. And it's the same case with Uganda. We might not be as blessed as all those other African teams on the continent, but at least steps are being taken to see that women's football grows. It might be at a snail's pace, but where we were, let me say, 8 years ago when the league was first introduced, is not where we are today. Today, Uganda can boast of at least 5 or 6 players who play in the paid ranks in Europe. It wasn't the case 3 or 4 years ago, where everyone was coming from Uganda. So you want to believe that there are steps that are being taken. The pace might not be the right pace, but with time we shall get there.
All right, we're hoping that the Pamoja bid would be a litmus test for Uganda, who are also co-hosting the 2027 African Cup of Nations with Kenya and Tanzania. Now, let's weigh the options ahead of the third round of the CAF Women's Olympic qualifiers. Cameroon, who knocked Crested Cranes, will take on the Falcons for the third round of the qualifiers. Now, remember that Cameroon knocked out the Super Falcons of Nigeria in the 2012 Olympics en route to the 2012 Olympics. Of course, the first leg, Nigerians got the lead, but the second leg, the Cameroonians came from nowhere to override that ticket that the Falcons had in hand. Now, looking ahead of this this third round, Clive, do you think history will repeat itself between Cameroon and Nigeria?
Well, Cameroon might be a member of the Central African Association, but like it or not, this game qualifies to be a West African derby. And when you look at what happened in 2012, you want to believe that probably Nigerian football has grown in leaps and bounds compared to Cameroon. Yes, Cameroon has also grown, but you want to believe that probably Nigeria has more players who are exposed, especially in Europe. Cameroon do also have them, but when you look at the personnel on paper and probably which players play in for better clubs, for better leagues in Europe, Nigeria will have that edge over Cameroon. Though you can't take anything away from Cameroon, when you look at the time, the money, and the investment that Samuel Eto'o's leadership has invested in the game, that's women's football in Cameroon domestically. You also believe that they will look at this as probably an opportunity to go out there and believe that they are a better country compared to Nigeria. For me, over two legs, I feel that probably Nigeria will nick it, though it will be that tight because Cameroon will not make it easy for them. But I'll give it to Nigeria to advance.
Okay, you're giving it to Nigeria. I'm hoping that they live up to the expectation from you. Time our friend. Thank you so much, Clive. We'll be waiting until the third leg gets underway to weigh that option. If Cameroon will be coming like wounded lions, as remember that most of them were, taken out of the squad list due to poor results from the team. And right now, they are on the edge in the hands of the president of the federation, and that should be Samuel Eto'o. We're hoping that they get the job done against the Super Falcons. And for the Super Falcons, you remember they've got these inner problems with the coach. Still not certain if the coach will continue his contract or not, or stay with the team. Maybe that can be an advantage to the Cameroonians going into the third leg. Clive?
Well, the Super Falcons are facing the same problems the Super Eagles are facing. So
that's a jab. That's a jab below the belt.
Especially in the technical department. But you feel that probably that's something that can be sorted. Though the sooner they sort it, the better. Without a doubt, it does affect preparations in one or the other. I mean, you're looking at Uganda. Today is the 1st of November. In 12 or 13 days from now, we should be playing in those World Cup qualifiers, and we don't have a coach, and somebody expects us to qualify. So I believe it's a situation that Cameroon, rather Nigeria, has been through, or has been at, is even at Super Eagles level, and they should be able to find their way around it.
All right, they will surely find a way around it to keep up their rankings in the latest FIFA rankings. Thank you so much, Clive, for joining us on the show.
You're welcome.